Hey guys, welcome back to another episode here on the Pepetto podcast. I hope you guys are well and I hope you had a very good week so far. For me, it's been very chaotic. I know I spoke to you guys, I believe last week, starting a new job, a lot of things changing, and it being my birthday over the weekend, it's been a very hectic few days. Today I wanted to speak to you guys about something that you might see in the episode title, and it's a thing about accountability. And there's a couple of things I want to share with you today about this, and I think it's something that we might all struggle with from time to time. The first sense of accountability that I'll speak about is more of the normal, like holding yourself accountable, self-accountability, making sure you do kind of own up to when you've made a mistake. I know it sounds so, like to a lot of people it might sound like, well, doesn't everyone do that? And people do struggle with that sometimes. You don't want to admit that you've fucked up. You don't want to admit that you've made a mistake because it's not easy. It really isn't. And that's what I want to get into first of all. And then the idea, which I think more people might struggle with, or it might sound like something that, you might think people do struggle with more so than self-accountability, but the idea of the weird urge that some of us might have about holding yourself accountable for other people's mistakes or other people's actions. I've been speaking about this a lot with my boyfriend recently, both sides of accountability as well, and, there probably is a better word I can use for accountability for other people, but I think it is something that I struggle with quite a lot, so I wanted to share some thoughts that I have around both of these kind of topics today. It might be more of a life lesson episode. I think it's not going to be more of a life updates, that kind of thing. It's going to be more of a life lessons with Ellie. So, I want to get into it and see where we end up in this episode today. Before I get started though, I do want to just say, and I will be posting this on my socials, but I have a brand new microphone. You might see the difference, you might not. I don't know. I bloody hope you do because it is a very nice microphone. Thank you, Matt, who bought it me for my birthday. It's pink and my whole new desk space is pink now, which I'm not a pink girly, but I'm making it work. Well, let's say I'm making it work. Literally, I bought everything that's pink before I got the microphone too. So, I am making it work because apparently I do like pink now. But yeah, it's a very new space and I'm very excited to use this new podcast. It's I've got an XLR in it, so it's a brand new fancy one. But yeah, we're going to see how we get on with it. And yeah, hopefully see it on the socials too. I think it might be worth starting off by kind of talking about why some people find it hard to hold themselves accountable. And I'm not judging or anything because I'm here to say, I am struggling with this sometimes too. I think it is a normal thing to not want to own up and not want to say, yeah, I fucked up, especially in relationships when, you've realised, oh yeah, maybe I am in the wrong. And it's about how to own up to it and how to not feel guilty afterwards. I think that's what I struggle with everything that I kind of have been through and everything I still struggle with on a daily basis. It's the idea that I don't want to struggle more with this guilty feeling that I've done something wrong, that I've hurt other people. I hate hurting people. So when I do mess up, I don't want to own up to it. And that's why I find it hard. It is really uncomfortable when you have to own up to something. And I think a lot of people can agree with that. Yes, it's obviously the right thing to do to say, yeah, hold on, I fucked up. But it is really uncomfortable to do, especially with, as I said, your partner, even, well, more so probably your parents too. You don't want to say, oh my God, I've messed up. And maybe that's from your childhood experience of your parents might have shouted at you when you messed up. And in a bad way, sure, parents shout all the time, but maybe it was a horrible thing to go through when you messed up something or you broke a mug or, or bigger things, you smashed your dad's car. I don't know what you could have done when you're younger, but we do go through mistakes, especially when we're younger, and it is about how our parents have taught us how to do that. And, that it's okay to make mistakes as long as you tidy up after you've broken that mug or you put some money towards a new car. There is an alternative to it instead of shouting at someone for it. And I think we can talk about it in a minute as well about the other side of it. If you're in a relationship and the other person is messed up, how you can go about helping them through that process and how you can make them feel a bit more comfortable, even if you're hurt, even if you're, you don't feel good right now because they've hurt you in some way. It is also, this is going to be, it's on you again, it's more accountability, but it is slightly up to you as well to help them through that because you obviously want to stay with this person. If it's a friend, family member, partner, you want to be there together throughout all of it. So it is about kind of mutual accountability when someone does something wrong. Holding yourself accountable is facing imperfection head on, which is why I think I hate it. I don't make mistakes. I don't fail. From when I was the age of very young in academics, I didn't fail ever. And growing up now, it's that feeling of, yeah, there are more mistakes made with jobs, with relationships, with family, like there's more and more, I don't want to call them mistakes, but there's more and more lessons learned, okay? There's more things that you go through, there's things that you do wrong, there's things that you do right. And I think as you get older, it is harder and more uncomfortable to deal with, especially if you are such a perfectionist. And I mean, I'm working to let that go. But then it is this, you're facing this imperfection head on because you know you've done something wrong. And now you've got to try and not get out of it, but you've got to get through it with someone, on your own, whoever it is. It's still difficult. And it means admitting that you did something wrong, that you hurt someone, that you messed up. And for many people, that does hit deep because we've been taught to tie our self-worth to our performance, our morality, or even being the good one in our family or social circle. So when we mess up, it doesn't just feel like a mistake. It feels like a threat to our identity. And you might think that's a far stretch, but for me, when I go through that, and I mean, I had a kind of, I don't want to say argument, but a discussion with my boyfriend about this the other day. It was really hard for me to, I mean, it's hard for me to open up sometimes anyway, but it's hard for me to admit that I've done something wrong because of this. And it sounds, if you're not someone who is a perfectionist, if you're someone who hasn't gone through the process of not helping themselves, like the whole self-help thing and the whole self-improvement thing, I don't know why you're listening to this podcast if you're not kind of on the same journey as me, but there are some of you out there, and it might sound weird to you that it's so hard for me to admit to mistakes because my identity, my self-worth is tied to not making mistakes. So when I do it, it's horrible. Like when, this whole thing happened at my last job back in, earlier in the year, and I opened up to you guys about it, and it was so hard for me to believe that I could make a mistake, which is why I was going back and forwards to my boss saying, it wasn't me, like I didn't do that because I was in denial because I don't make mistakes. All of that is just a massive threat to us. And I hope there are some of you out there, I know a lot of you listening to this will also feel a very similar feeling when we're faced with this, because it is really, really, really hard and uncomfortable. And as I said as well, there are some people that do grow up in environments where mistakes are really harshly punished. And obviously I don't want to get into all of that. I mean, I am lucky that I wasn't in that kind of environment, but sometimes when people make mistakes, it can be this unsafe feeling, and it triggers a stress response. It makes someone defensive or avoidant rather than really open with them. I think I'm not in this bracket at all, but I think these two things can go hand in hand, and it is, I can't speak a lot about this one, but it can be hard. And I do know people who have been through this kind of thing, and they do find it hard to say, oh yeah, sorry, that was me, because they think that they're going to get punished for it, when most of the time, whether at work, in your family, obviously family's a bit different, but in work, for example, in relationships, people are there to help you. People are there to help you through it, which is, as I said, I'll get onto that kind of side of things too. So it is difficult, that one, but it is worth being aware of, especially if you are on the other side and someone's messed up. Don't shout at them. Try and help them through it. It can be so difficult to do, I know, but you never know what someone's been through. It's a thing of like, you're walking down the street and someone walks into you, and it's up to you to like your reaction. You can control your reaction. You don't know if they've had a really bad day. They might shout at you, you might shout at them. You don't know what they've been through. If someone cuts you off on the motorway or getting on a slip road or whatever it is when you're driving, you don't know what they've been through. They might be late to their mum's funeral. You don't know. There's all these things that people go through day to day. We never know. I mean, I know if someone's really fucked up and yeah, they've smashed into your car, yeah, okay, you can't blame them. But there is that level of being kind of empathetic and sympathetic towards other people, because I know obviously there are times when you can just shout at people. That is fine too sometimes, but it is about trying not to, and trying to just hold yourself in a calm way and just hope that, everything will be fine. I think that's a weird way to put it, but yeah. I think another reason why people find it really hard with accountability is, and it's linking back to kind of the perfectionism too, it's this idea of shame. And this is a big one as well. And when you feel ashamed of your behaviour, your brain will try to protect you by deflecting, blaming others, or trying to justify it, even if, somewhere in you know you've done a really big thing wrong. It's not always a conscious thing. It's a kind of self-preservation in a way. And it's difficult to kind of understand if you've not been in that side of things. Like, I'm trying to put into words with the whole shame thing, but from my experience with that kind of thing, it could be the idea of body image. You feel shame for you thinking, with body dysmorphia, you're bigger or you've gained weight. And I think that's a side of it too. Or you feel ashamed of certain things in your life as well. It's kind of hard to explain, but your brain is so good at making you the good guy. Okay, and that sounds so sadistic and narcissistic, but your brain is so good at tricking you into thinking you've not done anything wrong, especially when you've been through so much, where you feel shame as a really big emotion in your day-to-day life, where you feel you're a perfectionist, where your self-worth is really quite low, that your brain has to preserve you because you can't take any more, basically. Deep, I know, but that is the general logic of it and the general psychology behind it. Again, I'm not a psychologist, but this is what, is, if you think about it, is quite obvious what I'm speaking about, but it is this kind of self-preservation, like yourself in any animal, we always try and self-preserve. We always do it because that's how you survive. So as soon as, you're faced with this, if someone's shouting at you or if you've had this realization, when you have this realization where you forgot, we can do it on a very basic level, you forgot someone's birthday and you're like, oh my God, and you try and make up an excuse, or, you've seen them and you forgot their present and you try and make an excuse saying, oh, I've ordered it, it's on its way. Everyone's heard that before. It's about not owning up to it. And it is, that's such a simple kind of example of it, but I think that is quite an easy one to wrap our heads around it, because it is, okay, I've done this. Yeah, I've done something wrong. Yeah, it's not a big deal. But for me, for example, I find it so hard to decide to kind of say the truth instead. And it is, I don't want to say it's about lying. It is just about not wanting to get hurt, not wanting to get shouted at, not wanting to own up to it. Exactly for those reasons, because you're scared of their reaction. You're scared that, in that sense, that you're scared that they're going to think you're a bad friend for forgetting their birthday. And that's another side of it too. If you've been through hard friendship circles in your life, when you've been ousted by friends, especially if you're girls going through high school, like this happens all the time. If you've had a really hard time, when you do that, you are going to feel this level of shame, this embarrassment, this guilt for doing it. So you're going to try and make up an excuse. And I think it's so sad that so many of us do it. But if you've been listening this far through this podcast, I think that example is actually a really good one, because, it's something that is so little, but for so many people, whether it's, especially those with anxiety too, like everything can wrap up in it and you feel awful when, if you did tell this person, 9 out of 10 times they'd be like, you know what, it's okay. If you have ordered one, that'd be amazing. I'd love a present from you, but honestly, don't worry about it. No one's going to be mad at you. If it's your best friend or your sister or something, it might be a different story, but most of the time, it might be a little joke, it might be something, but if they know you well enough, like if you know this person well enough, which I'm assuming if you're getting them a present, they should have, but there should be a level of empathy there should be a level of understanding if they know you as well, so it is that side of it. And so when we talk about why people struggle with this kind of self-accountability, it's not always about being lazy or selfish or forgetful or anything like that. It is often about fear of rejection, fear of conflict, fear of not being good enough for anyone. And as I said, it's sad that so many of us have this level of fear in us, I guess, and this anxiety behind everything we do. And that's what we kind of have to work on. And I'm not going to get into how we can do this today, but I'm just kind of putting it out there for those people who might be on the other side of it, which I'll talk about now. Those people who, someone's hurt you, or someone's just done something wrong, someone's not owned up to anything, someone's not held themselves accountable. That can be difficult to deal with too if you're trying to be nice, you're trying to be helpful to the situation, but that person isn't like standing up saying, okay, I did that. And this is what happened the other day with my boyfriend. Obviously, I'm not going to go into it, but it was a bit of miscommunication behind it, but I didn't own up to making a mistake. I know what I did. I said something in a very bad tone, said something that I shouldn't have said to him. I thought it was kind of like, not necessarily a joke, but kind of like a passing comment. It's going to be ignored. It wasn't. So I was getting annoyed that he was making it a big deal, but then it was a big deal because no one wants to be treated badly at all. So, but I took about 2 hours to realise and to own up to it. And he was being very, very helpful with it. He was doing all the right things. So if I can share advice with you, it's literally from what he did to me the other day, because he knows me. He knows that I'm going to take a moment to say sorry or to open up to him why I did that, for example, if there's a reason behind it. So it is that level of being open, calm, patient with that other person, because you don't know the reason behind it, especially if they're new in your life and it's kind of the first time they've made a mistake. You're like, I don't get where this is coming from. And this is exactly what happened. He was like, I don't know where this is coming from. It had been a long weekend. This was Sunday. It had been a very, very long weekend. A lot of emotions were flying around. So yeah, there were reasons, but it was ultimately my fault. And it took me so long to kind of realise that. Because it's one thing to own up to your mistakes, but it's another thing entirely to be on the side of someone who hurt you. I do understand that, and still choose to hold space for them while they're trying to make it right. I've been on this side too. I've been on both sides. I think we all have in some way, in some time in our lives. And it is hard, especially when you're hurt. When someone's actions have directly impacted you, your instinct might be to shut down. It could be to cut off from them. It could be to lash out. And honestly, it is valid. I'm not saying that it's not valid. And I'm not saying you should want to help them. It takes so much level of understanding and patience to do it. Your feelings still matter and you're allowed to be upset about it. So I'm not saying it's not valid. I would never say that. But the thing is, accountability isn't just uncomfortable for the person hearing the apology. It's incredibly vulnerable for the person giving it to. When someone admits that they're wrong, especially someone close to you like a partner or a friend, they're exposing a part of themselves they're probably ashamed of, as I've said. And asking for forgiveness or trying to make amends, that's scary too. It means confronting the possibility that they might not be loved or accepted anymore. And it is hard, as I've said, all the reasons why people might be scared of accountability, they don't know how that person's going to react, especially, with me, for example, me and my boyfriend have been together for 3 months, and that's not that long. And the fact that he's still so patient with me, even though he doesn't know everything about me, is wild to me. And that does hold a very special place in my heart because I've never been with anyone like that, who's willing to do that, who's willing to sit down with me and say, hey, what's wrong? And wait 2 hours until I can speak to him about it, while I gather my thoughts, while I calm myself down that I'm not going to get screamed at, that I'm not going to, be broken up with, or at work be fired. I can learn that, but it's also on the other person to try and help the situation. So if someone in your life does hurt you, but genuinely tries to take responsibility, it's okay to let them sit with their guilt, but it's also powerful, even healing, to meet them with compassion and boundaries. I mean, boundaries is something I talk about all the time, so I'm not going to go on about it, but there are boundaries here, and they could be stepping over their boundaries to explain to you why they said that thing, why they did that thing, all of that. It doesn't mean excusing what they did. It doesn't mean forgetting it happened, but it does mean acknowledging that growth is messy, and sometimes the best thing you can do is walk through that discomfort together, not apart. And this is not just relationships. This is with your family, with your friends, with your sister, with whoever it is. It's about doing that too. If you're a manager, with your team, or the other way around, with your manager, it's about doing it together. And those boundaries are so important to have. And that conversation about, are we in it together? And honestly, even with your manager, it is true too. That kind of grace is rare, but it's how relationships grow stronger after rupture, when both people are brave enough to show up even when it hurts. And I am talking back about relationships here. It is, if you can both show up in that moment, if you can both say, okay, right, let's both talk about it together, we're going to help each other through this, that's so important as well. The idea that someone hurt you, and yet you are the one holding space while they try and do the right thing, it can feel unfair, confusing, even a bit twisted, because society doesn't always teach us how to hold dual emotions, being hurt and compassionate at the same time, wanting a kind of justice and understanding, and wanting space and connection. It is hard to do, again, especially in relationships, especially in friendships. But the truth is, when someone truly tries to take this accountability with no deflection, no gaslighting, no blaming, you're witnessing something really difficult, which is a person trying to rewrite the part of themselves that did harm. And the process is raw, it's vulnerable. And yeah, accountability demands the sense of vulnerability. It forces people to say, I was wrong, and mean it. And that's incredibly exposing. For a lot of people, especially those who've never been modelled healthy repair, it's like stepping into emotional quicksand. They might fumble their words, get defensive, cry, shut down, not because they don't care, but because accountability is almost never a smooth or graceful thing for this person, or for anyone. It's awkward, it's ugly, but it is human. And here's where it gets even more complicated. When you're on the receiving end of it, you're under no obligation to make that person feel better. You don't have to help them. Even if you're in a relationship, if this person has hurt you, no matter how big or small it is, you're under no obligation to help them, to be honest. But if you want the relationship, whether that's friends, partner, romantic, whatever it is, if you want it to continue, if you see that this person is genuinely trying, it's worth remembering that you can both honour your own pain and show them how to do it better. You can say, yes, this hurt me, and still say, I see you're trying, let's figure this out together. There's strength in that kind of grace. And yes, it is so hard. It's so hard. And I'm still learning this now. And it's harder to learn it when you're with someone. Because again, you have that fear behind you. You're thinking, what if this person doesn't accept me this time? I've done this. I don't know why I'm doing this, but, I want to talk about it with him or her. And I don't know how to, because I feel like they're going to shout at me, or I'm going to be, it's so difficult to do. And the important thing to know is from either side that the person who hurt you, or if you hurt someone else, if you're that person, they are punishing themselves more than you ever could. So if, I hurt my boyfriend, for example, he probably does know, or, I'm telling him now, but I am punishing myself more than he will ever. Okay. And it is, if you're on the receiving side of that hurt, of that, you're wanting them to accept that they've done something wrong, you need to know that this person is punishing themselves, okay? And they're going to be thinking about it and apologising for as long as they have to get over it. And it's not just a female thing. You might think, oh, that's just girls being emotional. It's not. It can be so many different people, okay? This person is flooded with shame. Shame is such a bad word to use here, but, like this idea that they've done something wrong, I guess, is how I'm using shame. I'm not saying you should be ashamed when you do something wrong. I'm using it as they're ashamed that they've done something wrong, like that's how they feel. So instead of rubbing salt in the wound, it might be more healing for both of you to show them that being accountable doesn't mean they're unworthy of love. It just means they're human and they're learning. And if they can admit to it, that shows that it shows that they're trying. And if, the next time they can't, and it is more of an argument and it is more of a deeper discussion about that thing, they're still trying, and it's about remembering that throughout the whole journey. But this is also important. The idea that helping someone through their accountability journey should never come at the expense of your own healing. I get that too. You can be empathetic without being a sponge for their guilt, without picking up every piece afterwards. You can support them without absorbing the emotional labour they need to do themselves. Compassion and boundaries are not opposites. They have to work together in this. So in relationships, romantic or platonic, it's a balance, a constant back and forth of, I'm hurt, but I care about you. You messed up, but I still believe you can grow. All of that kind of thing. And that's the kind of emotional maturity that keep relationships alive. It's not perfection, but it's the willingness to repair together. So wrapping this up, what does it really mean to be accountable? It means being brave enough to say, I messed up. Brave enough to sit with the discomfort of knowing you hurt someone. Brave enough to not run, not make excuses, not collapse into shame, but to face yourself honestly and try to do better. And on the other side, accountability also means making space for someone else's growth, not carrying the burden of their mistakes, but holding space when they try to make them right. Understanding that for someone to come to you in honesty, they've already had to fight through guilt, fear, maybe even a sense of shame. That's no small thing. And the nuance here is being accountable isn't about being perfect. It's about being real. It's about choosing integrity over ego, repair over silence, self-reflection over blame. And it's about knowing that true accountability doesn't shrink us, it expands us. It makes us better friends, better partners, better humans. When I say better friends, I also mean with ourselves. And sometimes we also take on accountability that isn't ours. We try to fix things for other people, take the fall for them, clean up the mess so they don't have to deal with the consequences. Maybe because we love them, maybe because we grew up in environments that taught us we were responsible for everyone else's emotions. But that's not true accountability either. That's emotional overfunctioning, and it's exhausting. So this is your reminder that you are responsible for your actions, for your healing, your growth, and other people are responsible for theirs. Give yourself permission to own what's yours, but only what's yours. And let accountability be a sort of bridge and not a wall, a conversation, not a punishment, a way forward, not a full stop. I think I'm going to save the kind of other bit of accountability, the one that I've just mentioned about taking the blame for other people, putting everything on you. I think I'm going to do a whole different episode about that next week. There's a lot in here and I kind of want you to sit with it for a little bit. It was heavy for me to talk about this to you as well. And it is hard. It's really hard to own up to the fact that I can't admit when I'm wrong as well. It's one thing to admit when I'm wrong, but it's one thing to also say on the internet that I can't do it. If you're in a similar position to me, I would love to hear from you because I've not met someone else completely like this. I've met other people who don't own up to their mistakes. There is another way that people don't own up to mistakes, and it could be narcissism, and I have met those people too, but I'm not going to get into that. But You know what I mean? Like, there are some people who just genuinely will gaslight you and will blame you for their own mistakes. I do get that too, but we'll touch on that a little bit in the next episode. So I do want you to kind of do some work on this as well. If you want to, if you do want to kind of think about, do I find it hard to admit to mistakes? And it's okay if you do. It's okay if, you do find it harder than everyone else, or you do think that you're going to be shouted at for it. It's completely okay. But I want you to have a think about that for the next day, 2 days, week, however long you need. I will be. I think I'm going to be working on this for quite a while as well. There's no shame in it at all. I've used shame quite a lot in this episode, but, I don't mean it in a way that you should be ashamed, or, it's a big complicated word, and maybe I'll do an episode on that at some point. It's a very complicated word, but I hope you've kind of got something from this episode today. I have enjoyed speaking about it. It is something that, it is hard for me, as I've said, so I hope it's helped a few of you out there. But anyway, I am going to go now, and I hope you guys have a great week. Please look after yourselves. Do what's right for you, not for anyone else. All of that, you know what I mean. And yeah, have a great week, and I'll speak to you guys soon. Bye.